She was standing by the door. I was sitting at the table and I was watching her out of the corner of my eye, and she was looking down at the button and up at me and down and up again. And then she lifted her paw and she smashed the button herself for the first time.
Mm.
And she looked up all proud. Her ears flew out and we went outside and it was game on at that point.
If you enjoy cute puppy videos on social media and you've been online in the past 5 or 6 years, you're going to know all about our topic today. If you've seen that adorable Sheepadoodle pressing those buttons and talking to their mom, you get to meet Bunny's mom today, Alexis Devine. Her Sheepadoodle Bunny, known as What About Bunny, on social media became an internet sensation in the fall of 2020. I know Bunny helped get me through the pandemic. Videos of her communicating with assistive technology from Fluent Pet went viral. Bunny now has over 100 buttons individually programmed with various words that she uses to communicate needs, wants, and even express when she's in pain. Hello, Alexis. I am thrilled to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here chatting with you.
Thank you. And before we started recording, I got to get a sneak peek of your pups. And if yours are anything like mine, they're going to get up and walk around and get off camera. So do you mind introducing us to your furry pack behind you?
Don't mind at all. So Bunny is now over here.
Hi, ma'am. Girl. Oh, she's got her buttons ready to communicate when she wants. Yes.
She's ready. And then let's see. Tenrec is back there by the fire. You can see him sitting by the fire.
With his little bat ear.
Yeah. Little head tilt there. And then Otter. Hi, buddy. Hey, Otter. Is looking at something outside, but you can see him on the couch.
As Bunny is a Sheepadoodle and you've got your standard poodle, and tell me the mix or breed of your third pup.
He's a Papillon.
Oh, perfect. So who has the most kind of guarding, alert dog tendencies between them?
I'd say that Bunny, the combination of Poodle and Old English Sheepdog is a particularly sensitive combination, not a combination I would necessarily recommend, because you've got that sensitivity to environmental stimuli from the herding dog. Oh, she's talking right now. Oh, she said potty, of course. We just went. It's all good. She just
wants outside. There was something out the window. Needs to investigate.
Exactly. Yeah. So she's got a lot of sensitivity to sudden environmental contrast. She really likes to know where her people are, what the animals around her are doing. She likes to be in control. Yeah. And Tenrec, as a small dog, part of what they were bred for was to be little alert dogs. So he is very sensitive to environmental stimuli in a different way. More so anything he hears, anything he sees, he'll just bark and let me know, and he'll come. It's been really fascinating to see how the different words are used in different contexts, because though I don't have any human children, I would presume, as you just said, that a word can have a specific meaning that we've built, but it can be used to mean all sorts of different things. So it's really about the context in which our language is that creates the broader meaning.
Yes, I'm thrilled to dive into that with you today. And I do want to, I just hear your dog training side come out. And you're addressing something that when we talk to a lot of dog trainers, they aren't Doodle parents. And you're addressing something we talk about a lot on the Doodle Pro, where the looks that when you're picking between one of these mixes, the looks can be sometimes deceiving of, oh, I just want the one with the light blue eyes and that silver and white coat, but the Bernedoodle has the tricolor, that there's so much more underneath than these looks.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about dogs before getting Bunny. I didn't know anything about behavior. I hadn't had a dog that was mine. I'd had a couple of dogs in childhood. I didn't really have much to do with raising or training or anything like that. I really just wanted a cute dog. And Doodle seemed like a cute dog. And I wasn't picking based on temperament.
You're not alone.
Yeah, exactly. I wasn't picking based on any of the criteria that I should have been picking on. And I have since obviously learned a ton about behavior. I've become a certified professional dog trainer.
Yeah.
But there is so much to know above and beyond what a dog looks like. I think it's really important to take into account how they were bred, how they were raised before you pick them up, how they've been socialized, what the individual breeds that have been mixed in were bred to do, because that's going to tell
Yes.
you a lot about their future personality. And then, of course, looking at the personality traits, temperamental traits of the parent dogs and prior generations and health considerations. There's so much to take into account that I knew absolutely nothing about, that I now know quite a bit about.
Yes.
And I think it's important for us to learn those things and be able to help other people make informed decisions in that regard.
I completely agree. I just had Jean Donaldson on the podcast, and we were talking about we pick these breeds that for hundreds of years we bred into them alert barking, watchdog, herding. And then just in the past couple decades, we want them to just lie on a mat and not do the jobs that we bred into them.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
wild.
I hear some buttons in the background.
She's being pretty persistent right now. Look at her. I'm going to sit here and pout until you
Look
listen
at
to me.
her. I'm happy to take a potty
No.
break if she really needs it. You know her best.
She does not need a potty break. She
Perfect.
just needs an attention break. But that we talked about this, Bubba. Can you lie down for me? Come here. Come lie down for me. Thank you, Mama. Yes, 100%. I think, and everyone, like all the positive reinforcement trainers that I know are talking about this right now, how ill-suited our modern day dogs are to how we live. And I found that to be very much the case, especially for a sensitive and reactive dog like Bunny. The environment that I was living in the city was just not conducive to the quality of life that I wanted to see my dogs living. So I decided to move into the middle of nowhere. I moved off grid. I'm about 45 minutes from the nearest gas station, 55
Wow,
acres,
yeah.
bordered on 3 sides by state land, because I really wanted to be able to explore the behavioral impacts of agency on my dogs. So now we live in an environment where I can open the door, no leash, no collar. My dogs can walk outside. They can go sniff deer poop, or, if they see a chipmunk or a squirrel, they can chase it. They can watch the elk on the hillside across the way. And they just have a lot more freedom. They can say, I'd like to go this way, and then we can walk in that direction. And so I have very little control. Broadly, I have control because I'm the mom, right? I have to ensure their safety. But it's much more of a partnership, and I get to do a lot of active listening in terms of when they want to go, we go. Where they want to go, we go. If they want to go sniff and explore, we really have the freedom to do that, which is a luxury and a privilege. And I feel like that's how dogs should live, but it's not the way they can live by and large now. Percent of the world's dogs are free roaming. That's not the case in America, obviously. And we're seeing many more cases of sensitive reactive dogs on anxiolytics. And so, yeah, I wanted to explore what would happen if we were in an environment that supported some really doggy behavior. And I think it's helped in a lot of ways. It's helped me too, actually. Just being able to live in partnership with my dogs in this way has been pretty special, because I think it's something that most people don't get to experience, right? But I'd already had this experience of communicating in new ways and being able to listen in different ways. And now I have this experience of being able to literally walk outside as partners, instead of as I am the controller, you are the controlee, you're on this collar and leash, and we're going for this straight walk down this road. Maybe you can sniff, maybe you can't, maybe we get run up on by another dog, maybe we don't. That's been a really fascinating and beautiful thing for me to explore personally.
Alexis,
Definitely
as you're
changed.
talking about this, for those listening and not watching, I'm like literally tearing up. The way that you're describing partnership, you used the word control, and I just don't hear that in any way. This isn't about your ego, or you've literally moved your whole life, which isn't the only way to meet your dog's needs in part. But yes, like Suzanne Clothier talks about the power of our thumbs. Yes, we're humans. We open the door, we open the food container and stuff, and the treat jar. But the way that you're describing this partnership is just so beautiful. And I wonder, you started as being a first-time pet parent and getting Bunny. Did Bunny's communication unlock this? This is a big shift from how a lot of us were raised to think about dogs.
So Here's a thing that I think is pretty magical about these systems, the button systems, right? So there's a study happening at the Comparative Cognition Lab. It's run by Federico Rossano, who's really interested in exploring if what is happening here is language adjacent, right? And I think that's so important to explore. There have been dozens of prior animal language studies that have been met with. Some of them have been mildly successful, some of them haven't been. But for me, that's not the most interesting question. The most interesting question is what happens when we are conditioned to listen in a different way. Because for me, these buttons on their surface are quite anthropocentric, right? Let's give a dog a way to communicate in English, in our language. And on its face, to me, that sounds, shouldn't you just be listening to what a dog is saying? Because they're communicating all the time to us, right? They've got so much to say and we're just not listening. And I think people like me, for everyone, but we'll start with a person like me who had no prior knowledge of behavior, to hear a non-human say something in my language, it flipped a switch in my brain. Oh, this creature has something to say. I need to start listening. Right. So it gave me this notion that there was something cognitively going on that I hadn't been able to see prior to that for whatever reason, because we as humans are conditioned to believe that we are exceptional, human exceptional. So when humans hear cats, dogs, any other species, because now the technology is also being adopted by zoos to facilitate enrichment. When humans hear non-humans say something in English, it tricks us into believing that they have something to say. We start listening in a different way. We start paying attention in a different way. And once we believe that this cognitive capacity, this emotional capacity exists, we cannot live with them in the same way that we once were. They're captive animals. We can't live with captive animals that are so cognitively and emotionally complex in a way that is about our superiority, our control. We have to start offering them more agency. We have to take their needs, their wants, their desires, their opinions into consideration. And I think that's the magic of the buttons. It's not that they're speaking to us, it's that it teaches us how to listen in a different way.
I think that's beautiful. I'm going back to human children again, and I don't mean anthropomorphism, like dogs aren't human children, but the listening piece. When I had my firstborn a decade and a half ago, I learned about, they called it baby signing time or infant sign language. And my in-laws and parents were like, oh, the babies just cry. That wasn't my instinct anyway, but which is part of why I was drawn to this. But at just a few months old, signing for hunger, all done, tired, water, it made you realize the level of cognition happening and wants. And I hear that paralleled in what you're saying, that I needed a cry wasn't how I was going to understand it. And interpreting dog body language is something that takes study and is not intuitive. Like a yawn and a lip lick and whale eye, those aren't instinctual to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all about, and for me, this is particularly salient as an autistic person for whom communication has always been confounding. Like I feel like I've never really understood humans. I'm always like, there's something going on beneath the surface that I totally don't get. And like, how am I going to tease apart what this communication really means? And language alone doesn't suffice. We have a poverty of language. There are not enough words, and we don't use them with enough accuracy to really communicate what we need to. And even when I have the capability to use language in a way that communicates beautifully what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, it's going to be interpreted in a million different ways by a million different people. We see that on social media all the time.
Oh, yeah.
This is about developing multimodal communication. The more methodologies you have available to you through which to understand another being, whether it's another human, whether it's a non-human, whether it's a book, whether it's another language, the more the better, right? If one tactic isn't working for me, I can pull from another tactic. And I think going back to some of my prior professions, this is why I chose them. And I didn't realize this until I started exploring communication and why this was so valuable to me. Ballroom dance, really beautiful nonverbal communication, right? You can't use words, but you're communicating very complex movements, emotional structures. It's just It's beautiful. It's nonverbal. It's communication. Art,
Yes.
I was a wearable art designer, and I was able to communicate so much through these pieces of wearable
Mm,
art that I would then put on a person that would make them feel something, that would allow them to express something. And so then this sentiment that I had is experienced through another person without having to say a single word. And then I can supplement that with words, sure, to build a bigger
mhm.
sure. So this whole system is about developing as many systems of communication as possible so that we can get the broadest, most holistic picture about what is going on to support our relationships.
It's just fascinating how you, throughout your life, have created these alternate ways of connecting and communicating. And then this one is making such a difference worldwide. If I dove right into the deep end with you and have so enjoyed following your work. But for those listeners and followers who are unfamiliar with what we're talking about with buttons and bunny, can you share a little bit about how we got started here?
Yeah, Bunny uses a system of buttons. They're recordable. On each button, I record a different word that is salient to her experience as a user of these buttons.
Mm,
And I use associative learning to help her understand and use them to communicate with me her wants and her needs. Now, this system is akin to AAC, which stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, which was developed, I think, in the 70s for use with non speaking humans. And in 2019, a cognitive scientist, Leo Trottier, and I partnered to create a canine specific device, which we then have called AIC, Augmentative Interspecies Communication. And we use hex tiles that give a little bit more, they give context cues to our learners. So there's an up and a down, there's
mm,
6 buttons, the tiles are different colors. So you can organize them. Our learners can compartmentalize. Each tile has a different type of word, like all of her people would go here, and all
mm.
places would go here, and her toys, her enrichment over here. So, in that way, and by starting with very simple, sort of one-to-one ratio words like play, outside, treat, scritches, those sorts of things, you can really easily build these concepts. And once your learner knows that they have the ability to control outcomes in a
Yes.
world where they have very little choice, control, and agency, what we'll
Mhm.
see is that the learners will go anytime there's a new button added, the learner will go and they'll explore it right away. What does this make the monkey do? It's
Yeah. What does
really
this
fun to watch
unlock?
to watch the
Yeah.
light bulb go on.
Oh, I love it. When you first began experimenting with communication buttons, did you imagine it would grow into what it is today?
No, I'm pretty tenacious. So I did have the
Mhm.
sense that I can do this. I had no idea how, or,
Yeah.
no business believing so definitively that I could. It was something that I definitely wanted to explore. Bringing Bunny home, I was like, I want to have this sort of Lassie-esque relationship.
Yeah.
She's my first dog. I want to have this really deep communication and beautiful relationship. So I just gave her an outside button. I put it by the door and I would press the button anytime we were going outside, and I would say the word outside and we'd go outside, and then I'd be like, yay, we're outside now. We'd have a little outside party. And within a couple of weeks of her doing that, she was standing by the door. I was sitting at the table and I was watching her out of the corner of my eye, and she was looking down at the button and up at me and down and up again. And then she lifted her paw and she smashed the button herself for the first time.
Mm.
And she looked up all proud, her ears flew out, and we went outside and it was game on at that point. And then I began adding words quite rapidly. I added a play button and I added names for some of her people. And she was very quick to explore every new button that went
Yeah.
down. And then I very quickly came to understand that we could use this to help her explore her triggers, because it wasn't
Mm.
until around sexual and social maturity that I started noticing or understanding even what reactivity is. And so I was able to start labeling some of the triggers that would cause her anxiety, and then she could use those before she had a reaction to something to get that co-regulation from me. And that bit has been really powerful.
I love it. A lot of people have started learning how to use bells on the back door. There's a doorbell, which is essentially what you're describing, and or your dog just scratching at the back door as their way to communicate. And that shows Bunny is exceptional, but this isn't only exclusive to Bunny. If your dog has figured that out at the back door, this system could work for your dog.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Any dog is capable of this. The key is to find the things that are salient to the individual's experience, right? Not all learners are going to want to talk about birds. Not all learners are going to want to talk about their feelings. Just humans. We have different
Yeah.
interests, different things that motivate us. And I think it's important to remember too that this isn't a system that replaces body language at all. As you were just mentioning, a dog can scratch at a door. Let them out. They don't have to press a button if they're telling you that they want to go outside. If they're barking just let them out. We don't have to require them to press an outside button. But I think having some of those foundational words allows you to build upon that so that we can glean things about the individuals that maybe we couldn't without buttons. For example, one of the most powerful things that we're seeing within the community is learners' ability to self-advocate when they're in pain, which is really powerful. Dogs saying leg ouch, and then they go to the vet and they have an ACL tear. How would we have known this? Or Bunny said help, mad help, paw ouch, and there was a thorn stuck between her toes that I was able to get. She's Otter, smell, ear, ouch, told me when Otter has had an ear infection. Cats saying potty ouch, then they go to the vet and they have a bladder infection. Dozens of learners that are requesting medicine, right? So now what could be a very stressful experience, like, oh, we've got to give this cat or dog their medicine every morning. And maybe it's quite stressful for them. They don't want it. They don't know what's happening. Now they can request it themselves. It's taking some of the anxiety away from that procedure. So it's been really powerful in terms of self-advocacy for health and also for cooperative and collaborative care.
That's beautiful because so many of our dogs are stoic, and unless there's some loose stool or they're not eating as much and there's a limp, it can be really difficult to tell that something's wrong. And to give that language to say that there's pain or infection in a fellow dog is just what a gift.
Yeah. I heard the other day from one community member whose dog predicts the seizures of another dog in the household. It's incredible.
Yes. On a lighter note, is there anything Bunny has said with the buttons or communication that made you laugh out loud?
Yeah, she went through a phase where she consistently would call people out for pooping. Yeah. And this is right around when we had added some past tense buttons. So she would say, Dad went poop, or Dad smell, poop now. Or we'd have friends over at the house. There were a lot of television crews coming down too that would use the bathroom. She would call them out. She would say, stranger poop. So that was fun.
She's like, you don't have the nose that I do. Somebody handle this.
They never did it to me, which is nice. So it was very fun for anyone else in the household. But yeah, that was hilarious. Oh, and our little dog Tenrec, he's about 12 pounds. He's got these big ears. And she'll call him a cat, which is pretty funny. And she'll do that thing when dogs laugh where they do this pant, where it's like, she'll call him a cat and they'll laugh, right? And she's done that consistently. It's not been a one-off at all. So it seems like she maybe is making jokes. Hard to say for sure, but
love it.
I would say that it seems like a lot of learners within the community seem to have senses of humor.
It's like she's saying to your little pup, you call yourself a dog?
Exactly.